like to welcome on stage the first panelist. She's an MBA adjunct professor at Sacred Heart University for almost 10 years. A founder at Focus to Progress and teaching at the HEC Liège. So please welcome Esther Celosse. Our second panelist of today is a captain of the financial services industry. She's the head of regulatory compliance and strategy and the managing director at Clearstream. Yeah. Please welcome Anne-Pascale Malrechauffe. Our third panelist is devoted to fostering training and upscaling a generation of knowledgeable workers. He is a managing director and leader at the Digital Learning Hub. Please welcome Serge Linckels. Our fourth panelist is a director at the Global Strategy Group, a fintech leader and tokenization expert. Please welcome Vivek Yadav. Then we go over to our moderators. On the moderator side, we welcome the award-winning biotech entrepreneur and head of the Luxembourg University Incubator. Please welcome Pranjul Shah. And last but not least, we want to give a warm welcome to the member of the High-Level Advisory Board on Finance and Technology at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, a board member of advisory and expert panel of the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum. Give a warm welcome to Nasir Zubairi.
I stay here? Okay, thank you. Everyone, what you need to realize today is you must do exactly as Anthony says, all right? He'll get very upset otherwise. Thank you, panelists, for coming. Thank you. This is amazing. So we're here to talk about future of talent. So if I may, I'm going to start off with you, Anne-Pascale, if that's okay, to ask you a few questions. I mean, Clearstream is one of the largest employers, an incredible firm, the center of financial services, security services in Luxembourg here. Maybe, Anne-Pascale, if you could give us a little overview of what are some of the opportunities. What does Clearstream do in terms of upskilling, talent recognition, talent management at Clearstream?
Well, I hope Clearstream do a lot of things. As you said, we are a financial services. We have almost more than 50 years presence in Luxembourg now. We have developed historically in what we call security services. We have then had an engine of growth in fund services. I refer back to Alex mentioning and asking what is a Fintech. We do have Fintechs. We have created some. What we do in terms of recruiting talents, we are looking for young and not so young. We are actually open to everyone who has a, as Mrs. Backus said, diversity of thinking. I think this is the primary criteria that we are looking for. And we are based in the city center. We try to really attract multicultural people. We try to get rid of this perceived view, as I've heard already 3 times today, that banking is boring. We are trying to be not so male, not so white, and not so old. So I think I see many faces today, and I think these faces would be very welcome in our organization here and in many other banks in Luxembourg.
Just to clarify, I mean, how much do you process on a daily basis? What does Clearstream settle on a daily basis? Just to give the scale of what these guys do.
Well, we are settling more than almost 100 million transactions, and this is done through a in-house technology. So we are actually setting up. We have business lines, and we have a huge technology contingent of staff. So this is probably more than a third of our people. And what we do, and I think it has always been at the heart of what we do, and it has always been a success for us, is that, of course, we rely on external partners and external software, but we develop in-house most of our technologies.
You talked a little bit about diversity as well, and how Clearstream is looking at a diverse talent pool. Mm-hmm. Does Clearstream have any special programs related to diversity?
Yes, we do. We have several ones. We did establish a number of programs over the years, initiatives like any other companies, but there is one that I'm particularly fond of, and that I believe is very, very effective. We have set up what we call conversation table. So let me explain briefly how that works. Every 6 to 8 weeks, we do invite 10 to 15 of our employees to our conversation table. And this is where we talk about diversity and inclusion topics. Let me give you an example. We talk about being an introvert or an extrovert at work. We talk about working through different generations of staff. We talk about being unhappy and proud LGBTIQ+ person in the office. And of course, we talk about gender diversity and gender equality. That next to offering for our staff a safe place, I believe, to talk about this topic in a relaxed and non-formal setup, what it does, it enables us to capture suggestion and to capture the preoccupation of our employees. It is where we hear firsthand about their views, about their feedback, about what they live on a day-to-day basis, and that prevent us to just sort of make assumption about what is the right thing to do. So we rapidly turned ideas into concrete action plans, and I think it shows that we care.
Yeah, it's really incredible because, I mean, I can say personally as well, I'm sure you can, that 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, we wouldn't be thinking like this at all, right? So you are trying to change with the times and the expectations, right?
Yes, I think this thinking, this awareness about the need to be diverse, because this is for us, I think, and I'm speaking not only on behalf of Clearstream, I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of many companies who are outside recruiting today, it's that diversity is good for our organization. It's not just good for our brands, it's good because if you are not diverse, you cannot attract talents today. It's impossible.
Thank you. Pranjul.
Thanks, Nasir. What a fantastic beginning. Many students from the university who have taken part in the incubator programs know that I was the first employee of the university in Belval. So some of them still call me granddaddy of Belval because I practically lived through the foundation of most of the buildings. But that said, like the City of Sciences was reaching a full circle when the Digital Learning Hub was created here last year. So we're so proud to now have the Learning Hub on campus. So my first question goes to you, Serge. You've been in this sector for more than 20 years, and you have long experience in teaching education sector. And this Digital Learning Hub is something, it's becoming an icon in Belval. Can you tell us a little bit about what was the raison d'être or the mission behind creating this Digital Learning Hub?
Great French, by the way.
Thank you, Pranjul, for the question. Actually, it's very interesting to hear that you are one of the first here at the university. Actually, I used to be a teacher for 22 years, also at the University of Luxembourg, and I was also with the university since the beginning on. Now, as you said, the Digital Learning Hub here, having it here now in this very same spot, that's a big honor for my team and myself. So we are the Ministry of Education, more precisely, we are the VET department, Vocational Education and Training department, and even more precisely, we are the continuous VET department. So we are targeting the people above 18 years. And the project was launched actually by our Minister of Education, Mr. Claude March, 3 years ago. Like Laurent Poich previously explained from the labor market analysis, we found out that, well, 1/4 of all open positions here in Luxembourg are tech related. And maybe the most often asked question addressed to me is, what do you do with the youngsters? Where do they disappear? Because we lack of techies, we lack of fintech experts, we lack of computer scientists. What do you do, Ministry of Education, with the kids? Why don't they study such trainings? Because they have a guaranteed job, a good job, not a boring job, a really passionate job. We analyzed the situation. We found several black holes where the youngsters disappear, but we tried to provide more and more attractive training opportunities. And the Digital Learning Hub was created, well, the idea was created 3 years ago, where the mission I got was to design a different school. A school maybe where there are no teachers, maybe where there are no classes, but where the peer learning is really emphasized. And now we are offering here, we were launched in May this year. We started in June, July with our first trainings, and we very recently launched our winter catalog with 130 trainings in different fields. We address our professionals who are already working in the field and who need an upgrade. For instance, the latest regulations in blockchain technologies or the taxations in blockchain, the legal aspects and so forth. We are addressing also, secondly, all the non-techie people, the people who would like to get an introduction into what actually is a blockchain in very simple terms, or what is GDPR, or a coding class, which has a lot of interested people. And third and last, we are addressing youngsters, like I see a lot here in front of me, who have maybe finished secondary school, who have maybe finished university, or simply dropped out of secondary school and university and say, I need something different. And that is actually our offer. We are offering short-term trainings ranging from a half day till 30 hours only, but on a very specific topic, as I mentioned before. And then you yourself, you can assemble the different trainings you want. It's on demand, it's tailored to your profile, and then you can assemble your own curriculum over months or even years to get trained and to get a profile exactly what you want to learn. And we are collaborating with the Luxembourgish industrial sector, and this is something, at least for Luxembourg, something brand new.
I think the arena of continuous learning is going to be more and more important for our students going forward. It's all about fast learning, and what you're offering in terms of courses from one day to whole curricula that they can self-design is really going towards future. You touched upon a very important topic, which actually even the universities are struggling to make happen, is peer-to-peer learning. Mm-hmm. Maybe can you give us a little bit on insights on how the Learning Hub is actually trying to enhance this?
Yeah, indeed, you're absolutely right that I think having been a teacher for a very long time, it's very often the old school setting where you have some savant in front of you, some kind of expert, and who is transmitting in a very unique directional way his knowledge to the students. And we know that the learning curve is very low. So after the session, people tend to forget it very, very soon. And so this is actually very ineffective learning. And between us, I don't understand why a lot of schools, universities still work in this old school setting, the transmission of knowledge. And very often teachers tend to say, when I haven't told them it at least once, they don't know it. And in my opinion, this is completely wrong, because learning happens between you, and maybe copying your homework in the school bus on the way to the school is maybe more effective than what you are listening to in class coming from a teacher. So peer learning is one better instrument. So what we try to implement is bringing experts together. So as I told you, we are talking about people above 18 years, they have a certain maturity, they have a professional background, or at least starting to get one. And we put them together in a class. We have, of course, a coach. We call it a coach, not a professor. A coach who animates the team and who ignites some fire in this class and asks some challenges. And there is a lot of hands-on project-based learning, exchange of experiences and so forth. And there we believe that learning actually happens and is promoted much more than just in a classical school setting. I don't know how many MOOCs you have finished. I finished two MOOCs. And I started dozens, if not hundreds of MOOCs. It's so difficult to wash a screen and to do homeworks and so forth. It's so boring. And when you're in the middle of a crowd, it's much more fun. And you're at the coffee machine with other classes. You exchange at the coffee machine. You talk about whatever life brings you. And this is fun. And this is, in my opinion, what a modern school should be like.
Thank you, Serge. Over to you, Nasir.
Sure. I'm quick interlude. I need to take this opportunity. I've got to ask and maybe wake some of them up. How many of you guys here, put your hands up, have bought, owned, traded cryptocurrencies? Hands up, please. That's interesting, right? Okay, thank you. Just wanted to wake you up, especially you down here. I've noticed you're fast asleep, which is fine. She hasn't. Right, okay. Vivek, KPMG. How long have you been in Luxembourg, Vivek?
6 years now.
6 years, all with KPMG?
I think we started together, sounds like.
About the same time, so about the same time as me. What changes have you seen? I mean, KPMG, I think the latest batch, 300 graduate students you've recently hired. You've come in from abroad. What is it about KPMG in Luxembourg, particularly in terms of the way it looks at talent, the way it's changed its perspective of talent? You know, how is it developing? What are the opportunities that KPMG offers?
Definitely, it's a very interesting question. Over the last 6 years, I've seen dramatic changes in how I was actually part of a competitor before, but in regards to how Big Four firms really hire talent and the skills that they are required now. To answer the later part of your question, in regards to what skill sets do we really see, is I think a lot of it has now come down to innovation and the new technology. And I'm very surprised that so many of you have really traded crypto or have some kind of exposure to the blockchain. I think that was something was completely unseen 6 years ago. We're very lucky to, as Alex pointed out in the beginning, that two of the largest regulated cryptocurrency exchanges are based out in Luxembourg, and we were very lucky along with LHoFT to work on those exchanges before. So you could see that when I started here 6 years ago, there was very little recognition in regards to the skill sets required for AI, or in regards to blockchain, or even in regards to sustainability. And I think we have seen a massive change in what we are seeing now and what we are recruiting for.
Yeah. And oh, sorry, let me just have a look. What was I going to say? You know, sometimes, I'm going to be honest, I mean, I have had engagement with the Big Four in my life when they've tried to hire me, and sometimes I felt it's a little, let's say, rigid in terms of career progression. How has that changed? How's career development changed in KPMG since you've been there over the past 6 years?
Definitely. You are spot on the first part that it used to be rigid, and I think it's the way that Big Fours were structured earlier. They historically were audit firms. They moved slowly and steadily into tax and consulting, and now they're into strategy consulting. Because when we speak of strategy, usually the names that come into our minds are BCG, McKinsey, Bain, and now the Big Fours are actually giving them a very hard competition. Earlier, the recruitment used to be very siloed, but I think now we recruit a lot for cross-functional. I mean, I cannot speak much of audit and tax, but especially in advisory, now we especially look for skill sets of an individual, young graduates like you who are actually multidimensional. So you could work on multitude of topics, let's say from helping out on strategy, as well as from ESG to doing a little bit in Fintech kind of work, tokenization. And this was not the case before, because earlier if you were a specialist in AML KYC, you would actually be focused on that particular aspect. And that has been a massive change I've seen in regards to how the Big Fours operate now.
If I may ask, Vivek, what has been your personal journey? What did you study at university, and how did you come to be working at KPMG doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So I had a very international background, just like you, Nasir. I was very lucky. My undergraduate was in finance and information systems. So I think it leads me to, I think 10 years later, into actual world of fintech. I studied in the States. And after that, I did my earlier gig at Wall Street working for Dow Jones Indexes in New York. From that, I moved to, again, India, to Asia, China, Dubai. And somehow, financial services really attracted me, and especially the strategy part. And when we saw the video and when we saw the last speeches in regards to the ecosystem that Luxembourg has, and from financial service perspective, something that's what really attracted me here. And I think I have a very unique role, especially from a strategy consulting and especially working in a Big Four, is that we touch a lot of aspects of the ecosystem, right? So we work with banks, we work with fund service providers, we work with strategies for fintech, the new innovation, new technologies. I mean, I could give a very good example. 3 years ago, Nasir certainly had an idea that tokenization is really picking up, and no one was really looking into it. And we coordinated with you, and we worked on that topic. And that's a kind of an important, that my journey has been in Luxembourg, and so far it's been quite good.
Actually, could I, Anne-Pascale, could I ask you the same question? Could you tell us what your journey is to where you are as a very, very senior and important person at Clearstream, also one of our board members as well, so I'll be very nice to you, Anne-Pascale.
Sure. This one is very interesting, at least for me, so I hope it will be for you. Yes, I work in a bank, actually in a post-market infrastructure, again, Clearstream, and I've studied history. And this is also one of the particularity of Luxembourg, is that way back then, if I would have started in France, they would have told me, well, maybe you can be a teacher or you can be working in a library, I don't know. But I just happened to arrive in Luxembourg and they said, let's try it, let's see how it's going to go. So a bit fast forward, I had the chance to, I started in operations, so I was really on the back office side of Clearstream. They don't directly put you on the top job when you do history, by the way. So you had to prove yourself a bit. I had maybe two things may have contributed to where I am today. I constantly change jobs within the firm. So every 3 years, max 2 to 3 years, I had the chance to do something else. We are very vast and diverse in the different activities we touch. As I said, there is back office function, we have treasury and market functions, we have IT, we have a regulatory, we are a regulated bank, so we have so many dimensions that each time for me it was like if I would have changed companies, actually, literally. So it was a challenge. I put myself out of my comfort zone, believe me, and also had the chance to travel. So I worked in London, I worked in Singapore, I worked in Frankfurt, in Czech Republic, in Prague, and certainly here in Luxembourg. So the two things combined sort of give you more confidence. It gives you the chance to also to be visible to your employer, and this is how it goes. Well, at least for me.
Thank you, Pascal. Pranjul.
So what Vivek didn't mention very well is that before becoming a banker and financier, he was actually aspiring to be a tennis player, professionally playing as well. So that's, the journey is also quite interesting. And he actually happens to be, which is very rare in Luxembourg, from the same city where I'm originating from in India. So you can say it's almost by chance. I want to bring your experience into play here, Esther. You have a long-standing experience and career in training, academia, and coaching as well, and you are seeing from firsthand how this is changing as a whole, and lifelong education is becoming the norm here. So what are your interests in this, and how are you actually taking this forward?
That was your phone, not mine, by the way.
Technology always tells, right? Yeah, that's true. It's been a while already that I'm in teaching and education and academia, and I've had the privilege for the past 7-8 years to be part of the faculty for MBA and executive MBA students. The thing is, it says professor. I'm acting like a professor. I am teaching and coaching, by the way. It's not just sitting there and having this group of people listening to me passively. But I'm so-called a practitioner in the academic world, meaning that I'm not a researcher, I'm not publishing, but I teach out of my own experience over the past, okay, there you go, 30 years. Talking about banking, boring, yes, no, I don't know. I had some luck because when I 30 years ago, entered the workplace, I started with banking, financial industry as such, but I graduated as a master's in law. So when I met my peers around the table, often I was the one with a non-finance educated brain. I'm not saying that was good or bad, it was just very different. So one of the things, and going back to education and all of that, was definitely making sure that you stay on top. So continuous education has been my friend from day one. It brought me through the organization. I stayed actually 22 years. So I've been hopping sector by sector, country by country, but the main leading theme was change. So innovation, change, okay, it sounds like at the time it was boring and very stable. Also at the time, certainly till 2008, it was very dynamic, international expansions, digitalization, of course a different level than today, but the impact of it was the same. And it meant that we needed to have constant cognitive diversity around the table. So we needed to be constantly looking for diversity in the talent around the table to make sure that we had every type of perspective possible that could add to change, to innovation, to driving also the processes, which is then, of course, the second phase. So the first 22 years were really within that ecosystem of the financial industry. Then I took it out and I started to be more on the leadership skills that are needed to drive these kind of innovations and change. And that's also how the teaching and coaching and mentoring started to come in. The question about continuous education, oh guys, please, never stop learning. I mean, it is such an interesting world we're in. There is so much to know. There is so much opportunity also to learn. You've already heard so many different ways of doing that. It doesn't have to be years and years. It can be a day, it can be half a day, it can be the person sitting next to you. So definitely constantly be out on, your way of trying to get more of information and knowledge.
I think I'm going to ask a question maybe that for all the panelists, maybe I'll start with you, Esther, since you're closest to me. What do you think is sort of going to be the critical, I guess, from your perspective, for the firms and the industry as a whole, but obviously critically for the students themselves as well? What is the future of talent? I mean, what do we need to be thinking about? What are the companies thinking about? What do students, young people need to think about? Because it is a bit of a merge that needs to occur, right? It's not just, one or the other. And there's still, it's a little bit like a square peg into a round hole at the moment, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Certainly if you're trying to find where you want to go next. So you've seen that list that Laurent showed you on those skills and the skills of today and the skills of the future in different industries. Yes, no. They might drive you in your decisions how to look at your own talent and how to see how you can use your talents going forward for your own career. So hard skills, always there by definition. So if you can skill up and keep brushing up your hard skills, keep doing that, because of course the evolution in technology and stuff is going to go on. It's hard enough to keep up. But look definitely always at developing your power skills first. Because the way you behave, the way you think, the way you interact is going to divide you from being successful and being less successful. So whatever you see on all kinds of lists, single out all the power skills. I call them power skills, by the way. Often people talk about soft skills, but forget about being softer. It's often the skills hardest to learn. So
everyone doesn't get a medal in the real world, right? It's the win. You got to be hard.
Yeah. So it's really attitude sometimes over hard skill.
It's not me. It's not me.
Somebody is really wanting to reach you. No, kidding. So it's that part that if you can keep on fine tuning on that one, you're doing a good job.
Well, same to you, Anne-Pascale. What do you think are critical things that you, Clearstream, are doing to adapt, and what are you looking for from the talent pool itself?
Talent, future of talent.
Yeah. That thing.
Yeah, well, really, the future of talent is brilliant. And it's particularly brilliant here in Luxembourg. And in organizations like mine, Clearstream, but in many other employers on the market. I think it's brilliant because most of us here in Luxembourg, we are fully tech-based. All our business process rely on technology. And we are more and more leveraging on cloud, on DLT and what have you. And because this has become more and more present, you saw the names that I think Alex was displaying on the RegTech, Fintech, and the likes. And you still have the more mature and businesses which rely on legacy systems. There will be these connections there, these bridges that needs to be built. What I expect for the talents that I'd like to see at the table or our conversational table in the future is those who can really very much integrate business and tech people together. I think it's in a sort of, we always brainstorm at work. We wish to see this sort of biz tech ops mode, these sort of, yes, you may have learned law, you may have learned computer science, you may have learned, I don't know, but you can sort of try to move onto the field of your colleagues and vice versa. So this is where I see it. I see also challenges, don't get me wrong. You need to sort of challenge for me is that we need to cross-train each other. We need to cross-train our business people to sort of be more tech well-versed and vice versa. We need our tech people to get more into our business products. But we are bridging this. We are building bridges, and this is really what we are aiming for.
Yeah. Just to clarify, if I may, Anne-Pascale, and we've heard this a bit. I mean, yes, I think going forward, technology skills, coding, etc. I mean, there's a huge opportunity there. I mean, we don't have enough coders in Europe, full stop, let alone in Luxembourg. But when you talk about the tech skills, I mean, I'm guessing you're similar to me. I mean, I do fintech, but I've just about coded a website, I think, once upon a time. I mean, I can't code anything. It's not about being a techie. It's about understanding how technology can be appropriated, leveraged, engaged with, and utilized, right? That's
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Serge, same question to you, future of talent.
Luxembourg is so small, and we only have one superhero here in Luxembourg, and he's called Supergemp, and he gets his strengths from eating some kind of cheese. So I guess if you are talented in what you do, and if you are passionate in what you do, and third, if your parents push you into the area, you are some kind of superhero, and that's great. But in school, we often find students who are talented in something, but the parents push them into an area, and maybe their passion lies again in another area. So if those three don't match, it's very difficult. Of course, Luxembourg, we are attracting talents. So if you are talented in what you do, and fintech is one of the big topics in Luxembourg, please come to Luxembourg. But if you find out that you are not so talented, but you are very passionate in fintechs, come also to Luxembourg. And if your parents push you to come to Luxembourg, well, spend a night here, do some parties here. You can stay here, of course, but I guess the threes, we are looking for people really talented, passionate, and who really like to get into that.
Like you said, Vivek, future of talent. What will the boardroom look like in 20, 30 years' time? What people will be sitting on the board? Maybe these guys, but...
Yeah, I think the panelists have already given a very brilliant answers. I would add on top of it, I think especially for the young graduates, in regards to the future of boardroom and what you would be looking like in the next 10, 15 years is super multidisciplinary. And I don't even know what skill sets would be required for 10, 15 years ago. When I graduated, and it's not been that long, I'm not that old either, none of the things, I mean, I would say 95% of the things that I really learned in college are no longer applicable, especially the industry we work with. I'll give you a very simple example. We learn how to value assets. You must have taken, some of us must have taken valuation courses, right? Now the question comes, how do you really value crypto assets? And it's very different. The whole mechanics are very different. The way the cash flows are very different, right? So we were not prepared for that. And so, as I mentioned earlier, as historically, yes, everybody was very specialized. We moved from generalization to specialization. But I think going forward, what would be important is to be super multidisciplinary as much as possible with one anchor skill. So you need to know a little bit about ESG, you need to understand blockchain, you need to understand AI, you need to understand a little bit of data analytics as well as the business skills. I think that would make you more understandable of how really business function. And the way to do it, as other panelists mentioned, is keep learning constantly. I'm still enrolled in multiple courses. I just finished a certification in ESG from CFA. So, and which wasn't there. There was no focus on ESG 10 years ago. And I think only by continuously learning and having so many different skills is because the problems of businesses today are very, very different than what they were before. So I think that's my advice to all of you is keep learning constantly and keep taking courses. And there's so much availabilities now with the Digital Learning Hub. You could take courses on Coursera, Udemy, and that's how I see it.
If I may say, I think one of the challenges we face currently as employers in Luxembourg and across the world, which I think we've learned from and are looking for in the next generation, is adaptability to change.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I think some of the problems are related to people not wanting to change or opposing change to some degree, whereas what we know for a fact. I speak loudly. Hello? Some of the problems are related to change, but what we want actually is flexible minds that will continuously change, because I think, if anything, all of you demonstrate as well that getting to your seniority in your position has been about having to change. Who could have predicted COVID? Who could have predicted massive upscaling in house prices or cryptocurrencies, right? Flexibility is key, and being adaptable is, and continuous learning is always critical. Right? Yeah, good. Pranjul.
I think it's an excellent last question. I think in terms of time, what I would like to ask you is, I think what young people fail to recognize that there is a difference between a job and a career, right? And when they enter their first job, they need to understand that it's just a stepping stone to going forward. And maybe I can pick your brains a little bit more, like while they are setting their first step in the financial world, in the financial sector, how should they chart the course going forward? What would be the key takeaways for them from today as a first step? It's for all of you. Maybe we start with Esther.
Yeah, sure. So it's quite interesting. I mean, let's say nearly 100% of you here is Gen Z, or let's say late millennial. From what we think we know about you as a generation is that you will probably, on average, change job or professional position at least 15 times during your during your professional life. You'll probably alternate between full-time positions, part-time positions, gigs, side hustles, entrepreneurship, and everything. And that's brilliant. That's beautiful. The one thing that you each time on each of these separate journeys should know is, what are you wanting to achieve? What's most important for you to add as value? Is it something that is considered to be, impact, or is it making a change, or is it fame? It's all fine, it's all good, but you decide each time on each part of these journeys that can have every time a different objective and a different play out. But make sure that you get all that information, all that knowledge, all that experience to play then out what you want to achieve. So continuous education, sorry.
Thank you. Pascal?
Well, that's a difficult question. I don't know. I would just say something. I say, be prepared to get early every day, end your day very late, and still.
You're not selling them here.
No. If you like what you do, it's not going to be a problem. And this is where I want to go. is the two additional things I would say is do what you love. And yes, you can love being in a bank, you can love being in a fintech, and you can love doing something very different. Do what you love. And my last piece of advice is surround yourself with people that will accompany you during this entire journey. It's very important.
I think for some people in this room, clearly, not even 9 o'clock's too late.
Serge, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. What you said, do what you love, never stop learning and training, and Nasir, what you said, remain flexible. I guess these are three keywords. I cannot add something more. Maybe just the story about Luxembourg. We are such a small country, and we are an important country in Europe, and maybe because we are flexible. I mean, if you go now for lunch, you go over to a restaurant, you need to speak French. If you go over to another company, you speak German or English or Luxembourgish. So in terms of languages, we have to be very flexible. We have to adapt on the world economy and so forth. And that is putting all together when it comes to training young people and the people for Luxembourg here. We have to be creative. And maybe this is a fourth buzzword I would like to add to that. Be creative minds, be open to changes. Change is good. Be dare to be different. And I would like to emphasize, maybe in the last sentence I could say is that the Ministry of Education, we are aware that training, learning also changes over the time, not just due to the pandemic. We launch in March 2023, we launch a school here in Luxembourg where there are new teachers. I mentioned it previously before. It is called School 42, and that's a coding school that already exists in the world, and we start the Luxembourgish version of it. It's a school where you learn to code without any teacher, without any class. We have just a big room, put people in it, and put some challenges in the group, and the group has to order itself. So we, at the ministry, we dare to offer something different. Change is good, be creative, love what you do, never stop learning, and be flexible.
Thank you. Vivek?
It's always hard to go last in the panel because most of my words are taken. But I think it's very well and brilliantly said already. I think I'll reiterate my message again, be as much as multidisciplinary as possible. And one more thing I would like to add is don't be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, your first job is important, but sometimes you don't find the right match and you just get started. And the way the industries are now changing so fast and your roles are going to evolve so fast is that you can really relearn a skill and go back again as fast as possible. That's okay. If you really look outside, I would say 90% of the companies who are outside today were not existent 5 years ago. Or even less than that. I ignore KPMG, I mean, but that's that. So get a job, and if you think that's not right, it's fine. Learn a new skill. It's possible. It's fast. Get a certification, and then rejoin, because the average tenure of your employment is also going to be much smaller. I mean, my average tenure in a job has been 3 years. I think for you it could be even lesser than that.
Pranjul, what would you say?
I think everything is covered. I think one thing that we see that the students of this generation, they fail to use as much as I think we did a bit more, is to utilize powerful mentors. Like, really don't discount this. Find your mentors, and finding a right mentor is all about dating and matchmaking in many ways. Is because you'll meet a lot of people, but when you find that somebody who gives you the right advice and you connect with well, please make sure you set up regular appointments, meetings with them, and find that 15, 20 minutes even, but talk to them, because they could have a huge difference. They can make a whole world of difference to your career track, how you will progress and where you will go. And sometimes there might be decisions where you might be struggling, and they'll really help you. So I would add that, because this is something that it's all about listening and taking in this kind of giving somebody else the opportunity to help you in their career. But it sometimes takes an effort from your side. But don't miss out on this opportunity.
I think Anne-Pascale, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, Vivek, you said something very important. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and please, pretty please, don't be afraid to ask for help when you do mistake. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a sign of intelligence. I'm looking for people. I want to hire people who do mistakes, But then once they do it, they just come back to the team and we try together to get over it. That would be my closing remark.
No, I mean, mistakes are the biggest learning we get in life. We don't learn from doing things right. That's easy. If I may just add one point, I mean, the likelihood that people in this room live to 120, maybe even 150 years old is absolutely significant. That means very, very long careers. Guess what? Pensions are fucked. You're not retiring at 65, I'm telling you that, right? You're not. You're going to have very long jobs. You might all think you're going to be these next Elon Musks. You're not. That's 1 in a billion people, right? You're going to have a very long career. Think forward, because my sense is that a lot of young people think about today only rather than thinking forward. You're going to work for a long time. I've worked 30 years now. That's longer than I studied, right? Yeah. And I've loved every minute of it. But I did go back and study when I was 32, so continuous learning. It's going to be very interesting if people do live these long lives, which is highly, highly likely soon, is that they'll probably have to go back and restudy and retrain all the time to adapt, because the world is constantly changing. You guys all remember when the iPhone came out, right? 14 years ago. It's amazing. All right, I think that's the end of it. Esther, Anne-Pascale, Serge, Vivek, thank you so much. Big round of applause, please, for all these people.
Thank you, guys.